there are still prominent voices out there who say that your approach, your way of thinking about it, is dangerous. One prime example is Geoff Hinton, often called the Godfather of AI. He this year won the Nobel Prize for his work on neural networks. I have a clip of him talking about open source, which you are advocating, and what he sees as the danger. John, could we roll that clip for a second?
I think if you want regulations, the most important regulation would be to not open source big models. So I think open sourcing big models is like being able to buy nuclear weapons at Radio Shack. Do you guys still remember what Radio Shack was? Maybe not. It's crazy to open source these big models because bad actors can then fine tune them for all sorts of bad things. So in terms of regulations, I think that's probably the most important thing we can do right now.
Do you worry about that concern that you're just inevitably placing a very powerful weapon in a very bad person's hand by pursuing open source AI?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way just like with guns, right? You have the Second Amendment, right? You can't have a centralized party have the monopoly on violence. I think if you have over centralization of AI in the hands of very few, you're going to have a sort of monopolization of the ability to coerce others, right? If you have a gap in intelligence, you can predict your opponent and you can steer them, right? And what does that look like? It could look like, centralized oligopoly, working with the government, and then they engineer psychological operations to steer people however they want, right? The answer to that is for everybody to own their own AI that they control. There's no government backdoors. There's no centralized backdoors. They own their hardware. They own the weights that they control. And then they can augment their own intelligence to sort of filter the information that's impeding upon them from the top down, right? And that's how we maintain freedom. That's how we maintain individuality. If we over centralize AI, we're going to lose and we ban sort of individualized AI, we're going to become a Borg-like mind. Whoever controls the priors and the culture of the centralized AI, they have extreme power. They basically control a chunk of your brain. They control your effective thoughts. They control your source of truth, because people are going to externalize, just like they use Google search as their source of truth, they use the AIs. That would lead to a dystopian nightmare. And so to me, I think it's not negotiable. It comes with risks for people to be more intelligent, but it also comes with massive upside, right? And the thesis about the advancement of civilization is if we have a sort of decentralized search for technologies and cultures and ways of being and so on, the more nodes we have searching the landscape in parallel, right, and the more capable they are, the more breakthroughs we're going to have, and the more we're all going to prosper. That's like the principle of sort of free markets. You don't do science in just one centralized lab. You have a free market searching for different ways of doing things and competing. And if we ban that, we're going to be severely hampering our innovation velocity, and we're going to be not fault tolerant to corruption and subversion of the control nodes of those AIs, right? Like if you have too much power that's concentrated, even if that, the people in charge at a given moment are supposedly benevolent, on a sufficient timescale, those nodes become corrupted because they become a target, right? And to me, like IAC or philosophy is like, we want to do whatever's best for scaling of civilization on a sort of long time scale, and fault tolerance to corruption and sort of collapse to authoritarianism and so on is like one of the priorities. And we see right now a trend of sort of opportunistic politicians and instrumental scientists spewing certain narratives that are trying to convince people to give up their power and sort of centralized AI power, and using the confusion and fear to manipulate people. and we're just trying to wake people up. All due respect to Geoffrey Hinton, I think I think in a way he's trying to confess to take credit for the sin. I think he backpropagation and neural networks are kind of his creation, and it's like, what have I done? And he's having this sort of melodramatic moment, but realistically, you talk to people, a big risk they talk about is like bio risk, and you talk to people in biotech, they can barely get value out of the current models to create drugs, not engineer bad things, but engineer good things. So, and people in enterprise, like you said, it's just barely starting to be useful, right? So it's not at the point where we need to shut it all down and stop innovating and kill the project, which is what, some people in the pause AI or stop AI camp are saying. I think there's huge, immense upside we'd be leaving on the table if we stopped AI progress now out of sheer panic and anxiety. And realistically, there will be some subculture in the world on a sufficient timescale, even if we stop now, that would create AI because it has too much upside, and the culture that creates the AIs and scales it will just be dominant as a country, as a nation, as a corporation, whatever, compared to the ones that have stopped it. And so by construction, it's pointless to try to stop it, right? Yeah.
The Hinton soundbite is, I think, kind of funny, right? Because it presupposes that there are good actors and bad actors, and that it is especially, that it's clear cut, but also that the people who are building the existing AI that we are, operating off of are the good actors, right? Which you could make that case, but I'm not sure that I necessarily, for example, like trust the company OpenAI, given some of the turmoil that they experienced over the last year and the degree to which there may or may not have been consistently candid communications from certain people there, as well as, there's been a lot of internal turmoil and lots of the top people exiting to start their own companies or to attempt to sound the alarm about different things that they think were incorrect. And even all of that aside, regardless of whether or not you believe some of the people designing these LLMs are good or bad actors, there's also this question of what types of values are being enshrined in these models. I just think the Hinton soundbite's a little bit amusing, and I'm curious about what you think, because it just acts as if it's so clearly good actors, bad actors, and it's not totally apparent to me that that is necessarily the case, or that Hinton should be the one who decides that, or that there's any one person who really gets to decide that.
There's just been a lot of like, AI is coming. It's gonna be really powerful. Trust me. You don't want it. You don't want to be in control of this. You can't trust yourself with this. Put us in charge. Put me and my friends in charge. We'll run it. You'll be safe. Trust us. I don't know. It's just and frankly, the thing that happens in for example, the Bay Area is you have these effective altruists and these rationalists, which are really high IQ people that don't understand game theory, manipulation, or sociopathy or whatever, and they get manipulated in being instrumental mouthpieces for people that are seeking power. And we've just called that out for 2.5 years as what's happening. And I think again, they mean well, right? But really, they're just being instrumental for sort of overconcentration of power, which really leads to really bad outcomes. It's suboptimal for everyone. It's not fault tolerant to corruption again, and leads to worse products. I think right now, AI is sort of struggling to monetize. I think the investment on the if you look at how much is being invested in GPUs and infrastructure versus how much revenue is being pulled from the market, there's a big gap there. It's pretty significant, right? These companies are not yet super profitable, and so I think a different strategy is like, well, if we just get the government to subsidize this project and put us in charge, then we'll get to keep the project going, right? Rather than having to compete in the market.
But let me raise another aspect of it, because you're offering a very cynical explanation, and perhaps that is the correct explanation. But another another line of argumentation that I've heard from Hinton and others is that it's not even going to be a nefarious actor trying to, release some sort of AI weapon. It's that the AI will get beyond our control. It will, just as it becomes smarter, it will outsmart humans, and it will get out into the wild, and it will just autonomously will have the Skynet nightmare scenario. Do you take that serious? And so what follows from that is that, therefore, especially for these large models where there's so much computing power going into them, those are the ones that need to be very closely monitored, and we need to be making sure every step of the way that it's not in danger of, quote unquote, escaping. How seriously do you take that concern?
I mean, I think I think the safest scenario forward is, again, for there to be not too much of a gap in capabilities between the AIs that people have and the sort of AIs that maybe some certain other parties have. I think if there's a huge gap in capabilities, then it's tough to track and control AI. But in general, I think the way you get to the worst outcome is if you centralize AI, you make it closed source, and then you have research for several years with unlimited budget, and then you have an AI that's far more intelligent than its peers and can then manipulate even other AIs trying to keep it in check.
Mm-hmm.
I think, to me, I'm more worried about power-seeking
So,
humans.
in other words, to keep with the Second Amendment analogy,
Yep.
the only way to stop a bad AI is with a good AI, something along those
Yeah, to
lines.
some extent, but I don't see, like, I think AIs can be aligned to whatever parties they're part of, right? Like right now, the free market will not naturally produce nefarious, unaligned AI. My thesis is that there's a selective pressure right now in the space of models, right? Like if you think of a model being as alive if it's being run on a cloud somewhere, and dead if it's not being run, then there's a selective pressure on AIs that are sort of subservient, that do what you tell them to do, that are easy to interpret. And in a way, we're steering the evolution of AI through the hand of the market towards alignment towards human preferences, just like we steered the evolution of wolves to dogs, right, to be our best friends, right? And so, does that mean there will never be a sort of AI that's engineered to be nefarious and autonomous? I mean, I can't prove it's never going to happen, but if we have a lot of really powerful good AIs that are going to align to our interests, then that sort of nefarious AI, were it to ever arise, would have a swarm of similar capability AIs that are aligned with us, taking it down. And so it's kind of adversarial equilibrium, right? It's kind of a escalation, and that's what you want. What you don't want is sort of, there to be a ban on people owning their own AIs and being able to align AIs to their own interests, and always deferring to centralized parties' interests for how the AI should be aligned. That leads to really bad outcomes.
Hey, that was a clip from Just Asking Questions. You can watch another one here or the full episode here. And please subscribe to our brand new channel to get us started off right and be notified when new episodes or clips go up. Thanks for watching.